my name's Sean Harrington. I'm the principal of Sean Harrington Architects. We're a medium-sized architecture practice based in Cable Street. About a year ago there was an initiative by Dublin City Council and others to look at Dublin 1 as a whole area, to rethink it, and there was a big consultation process called Reimagining Dublin 1. And what they did, which was really interesting, is they got an outside body of architects, this time from America, to come in and with fresh eyes look at Dublin 1 and to see how it could be revived, how it could fulfill its potential in some way. In many ways, socially, economically, in terms of urban design and so on. And it was a really big consultative process which I was involved in at the time. And I was asked to be involved in it and join in the organising committee by Dublin Town, which was a great honour, and I'm very pleased that happened. Subsequently, Dublin City Council then decided to hire architects to look very specifically at the laneways in Dublin 1, and we were very lucky enough to be commissioned to do that project by Dublin City Council. So that was fascinating for us because we're right on the doorstep of Dublin laneways. And when I say Dublin laneways, it's quite interesting in Dublin 1. It's divided quite evenly between big streets that we know and love, which are well populated, like O'Connell Street, Mary Street, Henry Street, Cable Street, the Quays. Those are the big streets that everybody knows. They're well populated, they're successful in many ways. But just behind those streets, there are smaller laneways which are disused, often dangerous, dirty, lots of fly tipping, and pretty well not used to the potential they really could have. So we looked at other cities all around the world, and including we looked at this city to see which laneways worked really well and why they worked really well, to try and imagine a future for how we could improve them and thereby rebalance and improve the whole of Dublin 1 area. And interestingly, having searched the world for really good examples, we found one of the best examples of how a laneway works really well here in Dublin 1, which is the Millennium Walkway, the Italian quarter that leads up from the Millennium Bridge up to the Jervis Street Shopping Centre. And there you have a pedestrian laneway which is active, really active frontages, lots of restaurants, cafes and so on, lots of people passing through. It's on a route from the Millennium Bridge to the Jervis Street Shopping Centre and the Lewis on Abbey Street, which draws people backwards and forwards. And the other thing that's really successful about it is above ground floor level, it has people living. It has people constantly on the street, overlooking the street, making it a safe, active, 24-hour place. It's a brilliant example of how a laneway should work and does work. So using that as an example, we then looked at a whole range of different laneways in Dublin 1, ranging from the most dangerous, the most dirty, the most unattractive, right up to something that just needed a little bit of a tweak to really fulfill its potential. And then looked at 5 pilot projects. And as part of that process, we have just published with Dublin City Council a booklet, which is Dublin 1 Laneways, which sets out the 5 pilot projects as examples of how you could deal with all the laneways, depending on how bad they are to start with. And let's think about this. Our brief from the City Council was, how do you make a laneway feel less dangerous? And it's quite a simple thing, and if you can make it feel like less dangerous, then it attracts people, and footfall makes it safer. Hopefully in 20 years time, my vision of how Dublin 1 would be the most desirable place in Dublin to live, the most desirable place to shop, and the most desirable place to be entertained and to go out. And I think that's all feasible. I think also as the city gets larger, as travelling into the city becomes more and more difficult because of the number of people involved, living in the city will be a really attractive thing. I myself live in the inner city. I live inside the canals, I cycle everywhere, I walk everywhere. Everything I need is within the city centre, and that's what Dublin 1 really could offer. So I would like to see Dublin 1 have many more people living here in really well designed apartments with big balconies, lots of storage, very sustainable way of living in the city centre, for there to be schools in the city centre in Dublin 1, for there to be places to go out to the restaurant and good pubs and so on for evening times, and all done in a very sustainable, low energy way. And I really strongly believe that can be done with good forward planning. I also think that the retail industry should be very mindful of the fact that the retail is changing. With online shopping, there is always a threat to the viability and economic viability of shopping. And I think that offering will change over the next 10 or 15 years. And I think that the retail industry should be aware of that and plan for it, so that they have very specialist offerings, very specialist shops, very other things that are happening in the city centre that complement shopping, like children's attractions or other entertainment, so that coming into the inner city is a real treat and not just something you feel you have to do in order to go to a shop. So it becomes a whole 24-hour positive experience, and that's really important for the life of Dublin 1.